The vanishing of Kelechi. People always say you know when something's wrong with someone you love. They talk about instinct and gut feelings like they're spiritual signals from the universe. I used to roll my eyes at all that. Until the morning my brother vanished. My name is Amoka Chakuma, and this is not a story I ever imagined I would tell. It's the kind that changes you forever. Not just because it's painful. But because the more you dig, the more you wish you had never started at all. It started 3 days ago. Kelechi, my younger brother by 2 years, called me from the Murtala Muhammad Airport. His voice crackled through the poor connection, but his excitement was clear. Amoka, guess who got selected to speak at the Future Code conference in Saka? I smiled despite myself. Let me guess. Is it the same guy who once built a traffic control app in our parlor and crashed NEPA for the whole compound? He laughed. That was not my fault. I told you it was a power drain bug. Sure, I teased. So what's your topic this time? Decentralized security systems for smart homes. Basically, how to keep hackers out of your fridge, he said, the grin audible in his voice. That sounds very sexy, I replied, making us both laugh. He was happy. Genuinely. And proud of himself, for good reason. Kelechi had always been the quiet one. While I pursued journalism with loud protest and bold headlines, he found solace in code. Words failed him in crowds, but in front of a screen, he was a genius. He boarded the flight and promised to send me photos when he got to the hotel. That night, he did. A single photo pinged into my WhatsApp around 8:47 p.m. It was of a room with rich gold drapes, a dark wooden desk, and an oddly antique mirror above the bed. The lighting was warm, soft, almost too perfect. The message under it read, Room 13. Hopefully not a horror movie in the making, face with tears of joy, but this place is way too nice for how cheap it was. I replied with a laughing emoji and told him to sleep well. That was the last message I ever got from him. The next morning, I didn't hear from him. No updates. No photos. No voice notes about his speech. By noon, I got uneasy. By 3 p.m., I called. No answer. By 6 p.m., I had emailed the conference organizers. They said he hadn't shown up at all. That's when the dread began. That cold, clawing kind of fear that grips your spine and refuses to let go. I tried not to panic. I called the hotel, Obina Grand Suites. A woman with a smooth, practiced voice answered. Yes, he was here, she said politely. He checked in last night. Room 13. And? I asked, heart thumping. He checked out this morning. What time? She hesitated. Around 7 a.m. Did he leave a message? Or say where he was going? No, she said. Just checked out and left in a hurry. Didn't even take the breakfast he paid for. The line went silent for a few seconds. I see, I said slowly. Can I speak to the manager? He's not available right now. That's when I knew something was wrong. Not suspected, knew. Kelechi would never just leave without messaging. Not me. Not after all we'd been through. By the next morning, I was on a bus to Enugu. The trip from Lagos was long, sticky, and filled with the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I couldn't sleep. Every vibration of the road felt like a jolt to my chest. When I arrived in Saka, I went straight to Obina Grand Suites. It looked exactly like the photo Kelechi had sent. Beautiful, sure, but in a strange way. Like a dollhouse built to distract you from the fact that it wasn't real. The woman at the front desk smiled too quickly when she saw me. I'm Amoka, I said. Sister to the man who stayed in room 13. Kelechi Chakuma. The smile faltered for just a second before she recovered. Oh, yes. He already checked out. Left early. I nodded slowly. Do you have CCTV footage? Anything to show he left? Her eyes darted to the side. Our cameras have been down since last week. We are fixing them. Convenient. Can I see the room? I asked. It's already occupied, she said. I leaned in, lowering my voice. Listen, I'm not here to make trouble. But my brother didn't just vanish. Something happened here. I'm sorry, she said, tone tightening. There is nothing else we can do. I turned away before she could see the tears building in my eyes. I didn't leave. Instead, I sat across the road in a small cafe and watched the hotel for hours. People came and went. But something felt off. No security. No noise. The place was too calm, like a painting instead of a hotel. That night, I returned to beg the night receptionist, an older man with tired eyes. When I mentioned Kolechi's name, he stiffened. Then leaned in and whispered, "You should go back to Lagos, madam. This is not a place to ask too many questions." What happened to my brother? I asked. He swallowed hard, then looked around nervously. Room 13 is cursed, he said finally. 3 disappearances this year alone. All guests. All booked into that same room. My blood turned to ice. Why hasn't anyone reported this? He glanced at the front door. Because they never check in under their real name, he said. Because the hotel has friends in the police. And because most people who ask too many questions, he didn't finish. He just looked at me, as if willing me to understand without words. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at my brother's last message again and again. That photo. Room 13. The mirror in it. There was something about that mirror. I zoomed in. Focused. The reflection didn't match the room exactly. There was a chair visible in the mirror that didn't appear in the actual photo. I checked again. The bed in the reflection didn't have a headboard. But the real bed did. What was he trying to show me? The next morning, I made a decision. I was going to get into room 13. I didn't care if I had to fake a reservation, bribe a cleaner, or break in through the fire exit. Because whatever happened to Kolechi didn't end when he checked in. It began that I always thought obsession was something that crept up slowly, like a slow leak of sanity. But for me, it arrived like a slap to the face. Room 13. 2 words. A number. And yet, it felt like an entity, alive, pulsing with secrets. I had one mission, find out what happened to my brother. I arrived at Obine Grand Suites the next morning pretending to be someone else, Miss Adiz Okafor, a woman looking for a quiet, affordable room. My makeup was different. Hair tied in a scarf. Voice pitched up. I needed to get past the front desk. The man I hadn't seen before smiled at me. Any vacancy? I asked sweetly. Yes, we have a few. Room 8, room 15, and room 13, he said, scrolling through the reservation list. My pulse jumped. Room 13. I repeated, pretending to consider. He nodded. Yes, it's available. But that's when the woman, the same one I'd spoken to on the phone 2 days ago, emerged from the back room. She looked at the screen, then at me, and quickly interjected. Sorry, she said, voice firm. Room 13 is under maintenance. Pipes are leaking. I blinked. But he just said. Room 13 is not available, she repeated, louder. The man beside her looked confused. I stared at them both, calculating. Then why did you offer it? No answer. I dropped the act. My name is Amoka Chokuma. My brother Kolechi stayed in that room 3 days ago. You claim he checked out, but I don't believe he did. Now tell me, where is he? The man looked completely lost. The woman's face hardened. "Please leave," she said coldly. I didn't. Instead, I called their bluff. "If you have nothing to hide," I said, "then show me your security footage. If you walked out, prove it." She hesitated, then told me to wait in the lounge. 15 minutes later, she returned with a printed CCTV image. It was blurry. Black and white. Grainy beyond belief. A man, about Kelechi's height, walking through the lobby doors. But even from the poor resolution, I could tell one thing. That was not my brother. The man had a bulkier frame. Different posture. His hair was shaved at the sides. Kelechi had grown his out into soft twists recently. And something else was off. There was no timestamp. Just a vague label, exit, morning. I looked up at her. "This proves nothing." "It proves he left." "No," I whispered. "It proves you're hiding something." She stared at me in silence, her expression unreadable. Then turned and walked away. That night, I didn't leave. I found a spot across the road, behind a crumbling wall where street vendors dumped unused crates. It smelled like old peppers and stale beer, but it gave me cover. I sat with my back against the wall, watching the hotel like it was a living thing. I noticed things. Staff moving too quietly. No security guards, ever. No new guest entering room 13. And one person who stood out, an old cleaner. She was stooped, with silver hair peeking from her scarf, and eyes that never stayed still. She didn't speak much, but I caught her watching me more than once. The second evening, as she was sweeping the steps, I approached her. "Good evening, Mama," I said gently. "I just want to know what happened to my brother. I think something terrible happened in room 13. Her broom paused mid-sweep. She looked up at me, fear lining every wrinkle on her face. Then she shook her head slightly, as if warning me. Her lips didn't move, but her eyes, they begged me to stop asking. As she turned to leave, she let something fall from her apron pocket, an old room key, barely noticeable, disguised in a dirty paper towel. I picked it up once she walked away. Room 13. From that night on, I became obsessed. I didn't eat much. Didn't sleep at all. I watched the hotel day and night, waiting for a chance to get inside. The room lights never turned on. No one brought towels there. Yet every staff member insisted it was under maintenance. Once, I saw the door open briefly, just a sliver, when a bellboy slipped inside. He came out 10 minutes later, his face pale, hands shaking. He refused to meet anyone's eyes. Then came the scream. It was just past 1 a.m. I had started drifting off on my little makeshift bed of sacks and cardboard when it happened. A sharp, blood-curdling scream, not of pain, but something deeper. A scream of fear. Of despair. It came from the back of the hotel, near the service entrance. I sat bolt upright. Lights in nearby buildings flickered. Dogs started barking. But the hotel? Nothing. No one came out. No one flinched. I waited. 30 minutes passed. An hour. Not a single staff member checked. I crept toward the side of the hotel, avoiding the broken glass on the pavement, keeping to the shadows. I reached the back gate. It was chained, but rusted. Through a crack in the wall, I could just make out a narrow alley behind the building. Overgrown grass. A few broken crates. And a single door, paint peeling, covered in old handprints. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. But as I stared, I noticed something moving near it. The old cleaner. She stood there, her body shaking, whispering something under her breath, prayers, maybe. She reached out, placed her palm on the door, then turned and limped back inside the hotel. By morning, I was convinced, room 13 was never meant to be opened. Whatever happened there was bigger than a missing persons case. I wasn't just searching for Kelechi anymore. I was pulling on a thread that had been tangled for years, and now, it was unraveling. And the worst part? I had a key. And a choice. Some doors are locked for a reason, not just to keep people out, but to keep something in. And now I had a key to one of them. But I still needed help to reach the heart of the mystery, the real room 13, the one the staff pretended didn't exist. My instincts told me it wasn't in the public guest wing at all. So I watched. I waited. Until I met Chisholm. He couldn't have been more than 19. Slender, with shy eyes and oversized shoes, he pushed his mop like it was a punishment. Most of the staff ignored me now, whispered about the woman sleeping in front of the hotel like a mad person. But not Chisholm. He offered me puff-puff once. Said I reminded him of his older sister. I offered him 20,000 naira and a promise not to involve him further if he just showed me the West Wing, a part of the hotel no guest was allowed to see. He hesitated. Swallowed. Then whispered, "Meet me by the side gate." Midnight. Midnight came like a held breath. The hotel had quieted. Lights dimmed. I met Chisholm by the rusted fence, heart pounding like a drum in my throat. He led me in through a back hallway, a narrow, cracked corridor with peeling paint and spider webs clinging to every corner. The air changed as we crossed the threshold. Colder. Thicker. Like the building was holding its breath. "This place used to be part of the original hotel," he whispered. Before the fire." "What fire?" I asked. But Chisholm only shook his head and pointed. Room 13. There it was. A blackened wooden door, half-rotted at the bottom. Faded red sigils were scrawled along the frame, circles, eyes, spirals. Some looked like claws. One looked like a face, cracked in half. The number 13 wasn't even a number anymore. It had been scratched into the wood with fingernails, over and over. Chisholm didn't enter with me. "I can't go in. I shouldn't even be here," he said, voice trembling. "If they catch me." I nodded. "Go. Thank you." He disappeared down the corridor, leaving me alone. Inside the room, the cold hit first. Then the silence. A heavy, pressing silence, as though the walls swallowed sound. The room was small. Suffocating. A moldy mattress sat in one corner, collapsed inward like it had borne too many restless nights. On the walls, more sigils. This looked older, burnt into the plaster. The floor was scratched and worn, deep grooves trailing from the center of the room to the door. Something, or someone, had crawled, clawed, or tried to escape. I moved slowly, my torchlight flickering. In the corner, under a pile of crumbling bed sheets, I found it. A journal. Leather-bound. Water-stained. The name on the first page. Odian is. Housekeeping Supervisor, 1987. I left the journal with trembling hands. 7 deaths. 1 survivor driven mad. And a line that still rang in my ears. Room 13 does not kill with hands. It kills with memories. I had to know more. I needed someone who remembered what this place truly was, before the renovations, before the lies. And that led me to Mama F. It took hours of asking questions, some naira in the right hands, and a tired ride on a battered Okoda to reach her village, Nwokpa, a small, quiet place a few kilometers from Nsaka. The villagers were wary when I asked about the hotel. Only one woman finally gave in, shaking her head. "You're looking for madness, girl. But if you must know, go ask Mama F. If she's still alive, she'll talk." And she did. Mama F's compound was shaded by ancient mango trees. The air smelled of old earth, palm oil, and something softer, like hibiscus petals and charcoal. She sat beneath the shade in a rickety chair, skin wrinkled like dry tobacco leaves, eyes as sharp as broken glass. Her head was wrapped in a vibrant purple scarf, and she carried herself like someone who remembered too much. I introduced myself. Mentioned the hotel. She went still. Then, she asked one question: was it your brother who slept in room 13? My heart sank. I nodded. She sighed. Then he has joined the ones that never left. And so the story came, word by word, through the rasp of an old woman's lips. In the 1950s, the land where the hotel now stands belonged to a man named Nayemeka Nwachukwu, a wealthy local trader, known to the British as a collaborator. But what the British never knew, or chose to ignore, was that Nayemeka was also a slave merchant. Not across oceans, no. He traded the vulnerable, mostly children, from distant villages, trafficking them to work on foreign plantations under colonial orders. Then the rumor started. That he had been betrayed. That a rebellion was rising. The British were coming to arrest him. And in his fear, Nayemeka made a deal, not with the colonialists, but with something older, darker. He led 12 children into the forest. Told them they were going to be freed. But instead, he slaughtered them beneath an iroko tree as a blood sacrifice, praying to an ancient earthbound spirit for protection. One child survived. A girl. Chinya. She escaped, half dead, and ran to the village, babbling of red soil, screaming trees, and a man whose mouth was full of flies. Nayemeka was never arrested. He vanished the next day. But the land. It rotted. Crops wouldn't grow. Animals fled. And people heard children's laughter in the night. For years, no one touched the land. Until the hotel was built. The first hotel was called Obina's Rest House, Mama F continued, her eyes distant. I was just 16 when I worked there. Room 13 was where the troubles began. People saw shadows. Heard sobbing. Guests went missing. What happened to the original building? I asked. Fire. But not one that started with flames, she said. It started with the crying of a boy who was already dead. I shivered. She leaned closer. The earthbound spirit feeds on memory. Regret. It traps souls, those with pain in their hearts. And children, oh, they never forget betrayal. Back in the present, the picture was clear and horrifying. The hotel wasn't just hiding secrets. It was complicit. The staff, the manager, they were part of a ritual. According to Mama F, every lunar cycle, the spirit stirs. And to keep it quiet, to keep business booming and the walls blood-free, a guest must be sacrificed. Not murdered, not slain. Claimed. Their body fades, their essence feeds the loop. And room 13 is the gateway. That's why it's offered for cheap. That's why there's always an excuse, always confusion. And my brother? He had become the next offering. I returned to the hotel that same night. Not as a guest, not as a sister, but as a witness. I carried my phone, the journal, and a plan to upload everything if I didn't return in one piece. I intended to confront the manager, record his lies, expose the truth to the world. But as I stepped into the lobby, my skin prickled. It was too quiet. Too still. The night clerk didn't look up. The chandeliers flickered. Then I saw him. The manager. Standing at the top of the staircase, backlit in the gloom. Back again, Miss Amoka, he said smoothly, voice like oil and dust. I told you, your brother checked out. I stepped forward. I know about room 13. I know about the journal. I spoke to Mama F. For a flicker of a second, something passed through his eyes. Then, he smiled. Too wide. Too calm. Oh. Then you know how it works, he said. He took a step down. And now you've seen too much. They say courage is what you find when fear is your only company. That night, I walked into the belly of death with nothing but a journal, a chant, and love for my brother. I never expected to walk out. The manager met me in the hallway, smirking like a serpent in human skin. "Come, let's talk in private," he said. I followed him, expecting a confrontation. Instead, I was led. The hallway grew colder with every step. When he opened the door at the end of the corridor, my heart dropped. Room 13. But this one didn't look abandoned. It looked just like the photo Kelechi had sent me, the soft grey curtains, the antique wardrobe, the cracked lampshade. Only, something was off. The air was thick, like it had been holding its breath for decades. As soon as I stepped in, the door slammed shut. I turned to open it, but the knob twisted endlessly in my hand. I was locked in. At first, silence. Then, movement. From the corner of the room, shadows stirred. And there he was. Kelechi. He stepped forward slowly, barefoot, wearing the same hoodie I saw in the last selfie he sent me. But his skin was pale, too pale. His eyes, wide. Glassy. As though they looked through me, not at me. "Kelechi," I whispered. His lips parted. But no words came out. He raised a hand, trembling, and pointed behind me. I turned. And the room changed. Suddenly, I was no longer alone. The walls warped. Peeled like dead bark. Then the children came. Silent. Bleeding. Faces empty. They lined the edges of the room like forgotten furniture, some still clutching toys, one with a rusted chain on his wrist. Then came a man, gasping, choking on invisible smoke. A woman, scratching into the wall with her fingernails, writing the words. He lied. He fed us to it. I backed into a corner, pressing the journal to my chest. Time folded. Looped. One moment, I was in a room. The next, in a forest of screams. Then back again. I could feel the spirit watching me. It was testing me. Inviting me to break. I opened Odian's journal, fingers trembling. The last entry, hastily written, read. "When it comes for you, do not run. Face it. Speak its forgotten name. Call the souls it feeds on. And break the silence with the truth." I remembered what Mama F whispered before I left. "You must call it out, girl." The name buried in blood. I knelt in the center of the warped room and began to chant the words she gave me, an old dialect few still remembered. I called it. Ojiene Nindu, child without mother's rest. I called it again. And again. The room screamed back. It came. A swirling black wind in the shape of a child with no eyes. Its voice was 1,000 whispers. "You don't belong here," it hissed. It moved to strike. My chest burned. My ears rang. The children cried louder. But I kept chanting. Ojiene Nindu. I speak for the ones you were promised peace. I give you names. Chinya. Obi. Ikin. Uzuomoko. Chibondo. Let them go. Let my brother go. The spirit shrieked. And in that moment, Kelechi moved. He stepped forward, finally meeting my eyes. "Amoka," he whispered. Tears rushed to my face. "Come back, Kelechi. Please." He smiled. And then everything exploded. I woke up outside. Smoke. Flames. Sirens in the distance. The hotel was burning. Locals gathered. Police arrived. I sat on the ground, covered in ash, clutching the scorched remains of the journal. They searched for hours. All they found were bones beneath the foundations, old photographs, faded IDs, proof of the ones who had vanished. But not my brother. Kolechi's body was never found. Weeks passed. I returned to Lagos. Grief and exhaustion dragged me through each day. But then, the dream started. At first, just flickers. Then one night, he was there, sitting on a beach, barefoot, smiling at the horizon. He turned to me. "I'm free," he said. "You did it." I cried in my sleep. And for the first time since that horrible day, I woke up with peace. They never rebuilt Obina Grand Suites. Nature claimed the land again. But sometimes, when I walk past old buildings or see the number 13, I pause. Because I know what hides behind doors we pretend don't exist. And I know that some spirits don't need vengeance. They just need someone to remember. Someone to fight. Someone who loves them enough to bring them home. The end.